I'm Alexis.
And I'm Tiffany, and we're the hosts of Legit KidLit, a video series where we get to see into the secret and silly lives of authors and illustrators.
We love to celebrate and promote books, but most of all, we want to say hey to all you readers out there trying to find that right book for you. We hope that you can find some new reads after today.
Mtkhan is a speculative fiction author with a penchant for all things myth, science, and philosophy. She focuses on stories that combine all three, dreaming of evocative worlds and dark possibilities. Check out this awesome book trailer.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm so happy to join Legit KidLit for today's episode. And on the topic of what inspired me to write New on the Immortal Palace, it was really actually going down the rabbit hole of YouTube recommended and finding a documentary on mica mining, actually. And mica mining is the profession that my main character actually does. So when I found a documentary on mica mining, I was really shocked. Not only because of the content of what I was watching, but also I was shocked at how unaware the rest of the world is about, the horrors of child labor, the horrors of these impoverished kids all over the globe, how intense and dangerous mica mining can be. And so what I really wanted to do with Noor and the Immortal Palace is to start a dialogue and a discussion about global child labor and how we can change and how we can really open up this as more of a topic, more of something that's commonly discussed. And there are quite a few other inspirations for Noor and the Immortal Palace, like Studio Ghibli, because at its core, this book is still an adventure story. It still has a lot of wonder and magic that is commonly found in Studio Ghibli. So a huge inspiration for me was Spirited Away. I think I've watched that movie 10, 20 times now, but I loved Studio Ghibli movies growing up, and I really wanted to write a book that felt like Studio Ghibli, but in book form. This is a really interesting question. I don't want to give away too much of the story or spoil the story in any way, but there is a really big focus on education in the book. It's one of the bigger themes of it. And I think not many people, especially, privileged people like us who, we live in developed countries, we don't necessarily realize how much of an advantage school is or how much of a privilege it is to go to school. So I think one of the things that readers can really take away from the book is the fact that education for a lot of people can act as a means of escape from, poverty or from horrible situations. A lot of people can actually use education to build a better life for themselves. And can't say too much more about that, but I think that's something that we should all just be reminded of. Yes, we can. I love talking about the covers of Noor and the Immortal Palace because both the US and the UK cover are honestly some of the most beautiful covers of all time that I have seen, and it's such a privilege to be the author of both of them. I just love having my name on two gorgeous covers. My first thoughts when I saw them, I think I got the US cover first before the UK cover, and I just remember thinking, oh my god, what did I do to deserve this? Because it was so gorgeous and totally beyond any and all of my expectations. Khadija, who is the US cover artist, did such an amazing job, like blew my expectations out of the water. I remember I had told my publisher that I wanted a cover that sort of blended the mica mining aspect with the gin realm, and she did such a wonderful job at illustrating the mica mines and then leading that into the Sige Palace, which is the gin hotel, and then having that portrait of Noura right front and center. I think it's so eye-catching, and it's like such a head turner. I think, you know, especially when you walk into a bookstore with thousands of books there, this is a book that you're gonna see and you're gonna want. So I mean, I love that. And then my reaction to the UK cover is actually so funny because I actually cried when I saw it. It actually depicts a scene from the story, and so seeing that scene brought to life, or like brought to illustration, was so overwhelming because, again, it was just beyond all of my expectations. And it was like a scene that was one of the, you know, first ever scenes I really visualized when I started writing the story. So it was, you know, it really meant a lot to me to see that scene as the cover. And then of course we got like a window cover, which is super, super amazing and incredible for me. My publisher, or my editor, really fought hard for that, and the design team as well. So I'm super grateful because the gold foil, all the details in the UK cover are just absolutely spectacular, and that's done by Hazem Asif, and he's actually a Pakistani based artist. So I think they're just both incredible, and I love them so much. Yes, there is a Spotify playlist for Noura, and I did create it. So I love making playlists for any of my projects, for all my projects basically. And it usually starts with the sort of atmosphere I want to elicit while, you know, writing or reading the story. And so with Noura, I knew I wanted to do a lot of magical orchestral symphonies, you know, very similar to the type of soundtracks you would hear from a Studio Ghibli movie. So a lot of wonder, a lot of magic, something that like really makes you feel something on the inside. And so I just remember scouring Spotify for, you know, these magical soundtracks, adding that to the Noura playlist, and I don't know how many songs are there, but there's probably around 20 songs on that playlist. But I basically wrote the story to that playlist and decided why not share it with my readers if they wanna listen to it while reading the story. It might add something new to it. I wouldn't say I have a favorite song, but I definitely have a most listened to song, which is the Laputa Castle in the Sky theme. And it's actually kind of ironic because this Noura and the Immortal Palace story is inspired by Spirited Away, and yet the Laputa soundtrack was actually the one that I thought fit the story the best. I just love the score for it. I love the beats in the song as well, and I think it just works so perfectly with Noura. So I had listened to that song on repeat for pretty much the entire time I was writing Noura, and at one point it was my most listened to song on my Spotify Wrapped. Like, that's how much I had listened to it. So definitely check out the Laputa Castle in the Sky soundtrack or theme. I don't think I know enough bands to really choose one for Noura. But I think Nura would listen, like genre-wise, I feel like she would actually listen to a lot of heavy metal and rock music. I think she's into something intense and she wants to feel things. And she has a lot of emotions that she wants to release. And I think the perfect way to do that would be with a good old rock or heavy metal song. I think there is always something in the back of your head. No matter if you realize whether or not you're passionate about it yet. So when I say to write a story that you're passionate about, I mean you have an idea in your head that won't be removed. As in, it is inescapable. It is stuck in your head and there is no sign that it's ever gonna leave. And stories like that, they stick around. They almost haunt you in a way until you write them. And you might not realize like this is the story that you have to write. But over time, you'll realize you keep on coming back to this idea and it keeps on coming back to you. It's begging to be written at some point. And I feel like that's a kind of story that you have to chase and you have to write down and you have to explore it. Because in essence, you're also exploring yourself and why this story is speaking to you so much. And if you're really lost with what to write, I think a really good way is to just consume other creative works. I think a large part of writing your own work is to get inspiration from other people. So that can just be listening to new music, watching new shows, diving into different genres that maybe you're perhaps not used to. I think creativity and ideas can come from the weirdest and strangest places sometimes. So definitely just keep on exploring yourself and exploring the world, and ideas will come to you and passion will also come to you. And on that note, I think a good writing or brainstorming activity would be to read a book in a genre you're not used to reading. So if you're a huge fantasy fan, like I am personally, try perhaps reading literary or historical fiction, because a lot of the times ideas might not necessarily be in the genre you're writing about. It could just be the most random little side detail that ends up becoming something a lot more important. So for example, you might be really interested in the character's backstory in a literary novel and want to do something similar with a backstory in your fantasy novel. So try diving into a genre you're not used to and really getting to know the book and the characters that way, and see if it influences your own writing in some way. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you enjoy Nura and the Immortal Palace.